I'm Derek Wheatley, and welcome to episode 97 of the Weekly podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in to YouTube or wherever, Spotify, all those ones. A big thank you to Lisa McInerney for coming on last week to talk about her books and how she creates characters and loads of stuff, to be honest. It was a great episode. If you haven't listened, make sure to do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It always helps. I know I'm always going on about that. And obviously, thanks for your support throughout the week with the social media and all that. It's great to have you all on board, as usual. Our guest this week is a marine biologist, and she is Anya Lisa Shannon. How are you doing, Anya?
Great, Derek. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you on. I'm just listening through my headphones. I'm hearing the rain on the roof and the wind and all that. It's a pretty miserable evening out there, so it's not too bad of a place to be recording a podcast on this evening.
Yeah, I know the weather's bad on my side as well, so it's cozy evening, nice night in.
It is, and we're going to get back to that on when it comes to your profession, about weather and stuff that's involved with it, but listen, we'll start where we always do, Anya. Could you give us a short history of your upbringing, please?
Yeah, so I am currently based in Cork City at the moment, but I grew up in Ennis in County Clare. I have a bit of, I didn't grow up in the most wealthiest of families. I'm the oldest of three kids, so I have two younger brothers, Owen and Keane, and we actually all have different fathers. That kind of shocks some people sometimes, but we're so close. And like my mom, I'm really close to my mom, and my brothers were a really tight-knit family. So grew up in a council estate in Ennis. And yeah, I kind of just started from there. And then once I was in kind of transition year, I realized that, I didn't actually just want to be, a lot of people in, the council estate I grew up in, absolutely nothing wrong with it. But, a lot of them were kind of telling me, don't do transition year. Why don't you just kind of go straight on and, be a beautician or be a hairdresser or something like that. But I knew one thing was that I always wanted to get out of the town and I always wanted to kind of see the world and stuff. And when I did transition year, I ended up going to an open day in NUI Galway. And that's when I realized you could actually become a marine biologist as a full-time job. I always just thought it was a hobby at first. And growing up around Clare and stuff, I was always kind of in, Lahinch, and we're based near the coast anyway. So I always had a fascination with the sea. And after that, then I realized, oh my God, I can actually, do this as a full-time job. But unfortunately, didn't get the Leaving Cert points for it. So the Leaving Cert, I think it was 420 and I got 340. Now, I did miss a lot of school when I was younger as well, just kind of from my upbringing and stuff. So I was really, really bad at maths. Still to this day, can barely even understand my fractions. And that is hands down, I'm not even lying about that. So I did have to try really hard, kind of get the points, but unfortunately I didn't. And after that, it was a huge letdown because I really wanted to do marine biology. I then went on, someone told me about a course in NUIG. It's called an access course. So it's the equivalent of a PLC, but it's only based in NUIG. And if you do really well in that, you can go on then and study something that's based in NUIG, like a denominated course. So I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get good grades in that. And I ended up studying marine science in Galway. And then I got my 2-1, did very well. I always struggled with imposter syndrome. I thought I wasn't good enough to do the course for a very long time. I came out with a good grade, and then I went down to Cork then and I did my master's in marine biology in UCC. And yeah, here I am now working as a science communicator, I suppose.
It's it's interesting because we were talking to Lisa McInerney, the writer, last week, and she spoke about her working class background and how she takes a lot of pride in it and how she's very proud to write her characters within that, working class situation in her books. But she also talked a bit about imposter syndrome as well. And she talked about, as a writer, to be able to, write about the working class and for people to aspire, like you talk about basically saying, you felt that you an imposter in the situation that you were in.
Yeah.
It is really something to aspire to when people are out there talking about it, because it's something that I think a lot of people will not mention and for fear of, like you said, there's a lot of sneering around that kind of thing, in Ireland. And it's obviously a real shame, but it's great that you did kind of carry on to do the thing that you wanted to do.
Yeah, and I really struggled for a long time, kind of like I really, especially when I went into college, because it really hit me how intelligent people were. And I always had it in my head that because I didn't get the points in Leaving Cert, I didn't belong there and I wasn't as intelligent as these people who were coming out with 400, 500 points. And I realized it wasn't even how intelligent you were in school, it was how passionate and how committed you
Mm.
were to actually doing something. If you love it, I mean, it's you never work a day in your life, you know?
Mm.
And growing up in the council estate and stuff, and there was a lot of stigma, because we all had different dads, and we had St. Vincent de Paul used to help us at Christmas time and everything, so this was years ago now. Now
Mm.
we're in a much better place, but there was a lot of negative stigma surrounding that. But now I'm so proud of where I've come from, and that's what I want to get across. That's why I never want to like pretend I'm something that I'm not.
Mm.
I want people to know that I came from like a working class background, and it was low income for a long time, and we had to work hard, because I want kids to realize that like you don't just have to grow up in a wealthy family and have everything handed to you. That's not always the case. So I want to encourage people, kids out there who are kind of in similar situations to, put the head down, and you can get out of those situations as well.
100%, and very well said. So kind of coming off that, then, when did you first become aware of mental health?
Oh God, I think I really kind of became aware of it in college, because I'd never, when you're a teenager and stuff. For me, like I had some issues with my temper and stuff.
Mm.
I didn't know how to control my emotions when I was angry, and I'd start shouting. And I realized when you're shouting or like you're kind of losing your temper, you're deflecting from the actual situation because you're trying to distract.
Mm.
So it really kind of hit me. And then I think as well, when I was in college, I started drinking more and I started partying a lot more. And I mean, my mental health just went completely downhill in second year of college. A lot of stuff was happening back home as well. And I didn't give a crap, to be honest. So my grades started to go down, and I realized I came out, I think it was the end of second year, I came out with 4 repeats.
Mm.
So I'd failed 4 modules that I realized, okay, something wasn't right. I didn't have my head in it anymore. So I started to go to counseling, like full blown counseling. I first started it off, I was lucky enough that NUIG provided free counseling services. And I think with college, I think you're only allowed 6 weeks. So it's once a week. But because I was dealing with a lot of issues, they continued it on for me. I think if a student is really struggling, they will continue on. So I kept going with that, and I've done a lot of it now. I'm not even going to lie. I did that, and then I did another group therapy session. Is it CBT?
Yeah.
I did that. I've done so much now because I needed it, and oh my God, it helped me so much. And like, I wouldn't be where I am today now if it wasn't for noticing my mental health and doing the counseling sessions and being open about it as well.
Yeah, it helps an awful lot, and I love that we have talked about it on the show before about the how colleges have facilitated that for students, and it's very, very important, and it's brilliant that they're doing it, obviously. So this is a pretty basic question, I think. But what is a marine biologist?
So to put it to the basics, really, marine biology is just studying the sea, whether it be the biological side, the oceanic side, chemistry. But really what I would focus on is I'm a biologist. So I would focus on all the living stuff, the life cycles and everything. And the department that I work in particularly is the aquaculture industry. So what aquaculture means is it's just the farming of plants and animals underwater. We farm on land, that's called agriculture. Aquaculture is the same thing, except there's water involved.
I mean, that's perfectly summed up for us. I think. So you talk about, so when you say, because obviously you grew up by the sea, and you talk about like realizing that it was something that you could work at rather than just a hobby in that. But what, like, around what age were you when you were thinking about something to do with the sea? Were you an 8-year-old? You know, the way we dream about being an astronaut or whatever people dream about. But what age were you when you started dreaming about, saying, working around, in and around the sea?
I always had an interest with the outdoors, and there was something to do with the sea. I always had a fascination with what was underneath it. For some reason, depth, I don't know, deep sea really fascinated me. I was always like research, like even when I was younger, I remember like, we'd go to a lake or we'd go to the sea and I'd be like, how deep do you think that is now? I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I always had that fascination. And when I was younger as well, I was always attracted to like the rock pools at the beach. But I didn't grow, I wasn't a 5-year-old saying I want to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a pop star. I idolized Britney Spears,
Yeah.
absolutely loved her. That's what I wanted to be. And I think then once I was kind of around maybe 12 or 13, 14, like we were always outdoors when you're that age as well. You know, it's not like now where you're kind of stuck inside on your phones, and because of COVID as well, you can't go outside. So I just always knew I had an interest in the ocean. And I used to watch a lot of documentaries when I was younger. I can't remember her name, Valerie something anyway. She's a marine scientist. She made me realize, like, I used to watch her documentaries and I just fell in love with her. It was just amazing to see her traveling around. And then when I went to the Open Day in NUIG, I always thought it was a hobby. I always thought just kind of, because the scuba diving stuff is a hobby. But then when I went and did, like, you know, the Open Day and I had the careers day, I was like, oh, you can actually do this as a full-time job. That's when I really put my head down. Because when I was in secondary school, up until transition year, really, I struggled with school. Like, I used to be in a lot of trouble. You know, I got suspended from school because you're just lashing out in the wrong way. And that happens to a lot of kids when they grow up with kind of low income backgrounds, or people with wealthy backgrounds, but, you know, more so often not the lower income. And, you know, I used to get in a lot of trouble. I was suspended. I think I was on that report card thing every year. And it was in TY I realized, no, this is just not the path I want to take. So I wanted to go to college. You know, I wanted to see what was out there. And then I really did put the head down after TY and I turned it around. So it just goes to show, like, you can turn it around.
Absolutely. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's great. So who then, so it's aquaculture. Where you work, is it a government department?
Yeah, so it's a government company. It's called Bord Iascaigh Mhara, but so there's two of them really in Ireland. There's a Marine Institute in Galway and Oranmore, and then there's Bord Iascaigh Mhara, and they're based in Dunleary in Dublin. But I'm not technically employed with them. I'm a contractor.
Right.
So I'm contracted through another company called H2 Learning, and they deal with like primary schools and stuff. So I work on a project called the ARC. What that stands for is Aquaculture Remote Classroom. Aquaculture meaning the farming of plants and animals underwater. Remote because I teach it from home and the kids are at school, and classroom because we hope they learn something. So we're basically a self-expanding mobile classroom before COVID. And we used to travel all around Ireland in a big yellow truck kitted out like a submarine to teach 5th and 6th class students all about aquaculture and marine biology in Ireland. So we used to visit the schools and we'd spend a day there, and it's a whole workshop. They'll hop on the truck and it's a 4 or 5 hour workshop. We'll do lots of different activities on board and it's brilliant. I loved it. Yeah.
They, like, kids must absolutely love that kind of thing.
Oh, they love it. And like the goal of the truck is, like, if you hop on it's not like, it's totally self-expanding, and you know, it really, and we're getting a new one now again currently, and it's top of the range, but the goal is to make it the total opposite to like your typical classroom in school. So it's very theatrical. It's like when they come in there, like there's 3 massive screens. It's like they're sitting down in a cinema.
Right.
That's what it is. There's all these LED lights and they're just blown away. And we just talk about the aquaculture industry and, you know, what species we farm in Ireland and how they're farmed and why we farm them mainly on the west coast of Ireland, because the weather and the soil can be quite poor for agriculture, but they have endless amounts of sea when you live on the west. So they just use their natural resource instead. We talk about that, and we talk about some underlying issues, and there is a lot of negative stigma around, you know, fish farming. So we bring that in as well, and we explain the scientific side of that. And yeah, it's great. But since COVID has hit now, I'm currently working from home a lot of the time, and I would teach webinars to kids, and I teach TY students as well about the potential careers in the aquaculture and fishing industry. And then sometimes I'll travel around and I'll visit fishing producers and aquaculture producers all along the west coast as well. So it's great.
I love the idea that you're now back in, you know, with transition years, telling them like what you found out. It's a brilliant way to kind of close the loop. Anya, just let me read out an ad and we'll get back into it. All right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I'm doing all right with this ad at the moment. Fusion Training Centre, Monksland, Athlone. A place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Centre. Train like a warrior. Not bad. Okay. Self-praise is no praise. So when I contacted you about coming on, and you mentioned about the kind of connection between mental health and the sea for you and the ocean for you, how important for your mental health is it for you to be near the ocean?
Oh, it actually just saves me.
Mm.
That's literally what it does. I mean, when I feel down or I'm stressed out, I'm based in Cork City, so I'm not like right near the coast. I'll take a drive. I'll drive for a half an hour just to get out there, and I'll just sit there. Sometimes I'll go in for a swim. You don't have to. Sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll literally just watch the waves. It's just completely, it's saved me and my mental health a lot of the time when I've just been feeling really low or really down. And I think it does clear the head for a lot of people, you know, getting out of the city or getting out of the environment that's stressing you out. You get yourself out of that and you go for a walk on the beach or even go for a walk in the woods.
Mm.
And for me, I think it totally clears the head. And I mean, if you can get in and go for a sea swim, I think that's even better. As much and all as I do hate the cold a lot of the time, if I just run in and I come back out, your worries literally are just washed away. That's for me anyway.
We are going to talk about that in a few minutes, and it's because I started doing it in the lake and then in the sea when I get up to Dublin or whatever. But yeah. I want to chat a bit about that too, because I agree with everything you just said there, but we'll add on a bit more. But so when I was looking up a little bit about marine biology, because I do research things sometimes, people might be surprised to know that. But so a large part of your work would be projects. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, and even my job now at the moment is it's an ARC project. That's what it's called, and it's funded through the European Union, and the campaign is called #Farmed in the EU.
Right.
I mean, that's the project right now, and it's currently working. I think it's in its third year now, and you have to keep reevaluating the project every year and see if it's worth the while, you know, putting the money into it and all. But the project that I've been in now, I mean, we're the only country in Europe to kickstart a mobile classroom traveling around. So we're actually bringing it now into other European countries. I mean, Finland are really interested, France are really interested. So it has been working, you know, but when you're a marine biologist, a lot of the time you can be a contractor or you could just work in a consultancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to do consultancy. This job for me was perfect. Science communication, you know, talking to people.
Yeah, well, if that's your thing, that's, you know, if that's your kind of, because I suppose people in consultancy jobs would be happy to do it because maybe they aren't good at talking to people, and you know, and that's fine too, because it's, you know, it's each for their own, kind of each for everything. Sure. I saw on your Instagram page there's some really cool little kind of organisms and things that you show on it, and there was one in particular, and you'll have to remind me of the name now, but it was taken a while ago, but you're in the water, and it's something to do Japanese something, and it's kind of looks like seaweed, or maybe it's some sort of a plant.
It's a seaweed, sargassum.
So what, and is that a poisonous kind of situation for the sea?
It's an invasive species. So what that means is it's native to Japanese waters. It just means that it's a non-native species that's found its way into Irish waters. And because that seaweed is extremely fast growing and it has these little bladders on it, it literally has air pockets. So it floats up right to the top, because seaweed get their food through photosynthesis, which means they need sunlight to produce the food. So what it does is they use the air bladders to literally float at the top, but it completely smothers every other species down below, like all the other lower lying seaweeds. And it's such a fast grower. But yeah, that one has been rampant in Ireland at the moment. Sometimes a lot of it dies off in the winter, but it's still a major problem.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. What can you do, like, apart from it dying off in the winter, what can you do about it?
Actually, I was looking up studies on it, and the best thing to do is actually leave it alone.
Okay.
That's what they're saying, because a lot of people have been trying to cut it back, but that can actually end up causing it to reproduce even more, because the spores and stuff will be passing along with the currents. So yeah, I was looking up a study. It first originated, I think, up in Galway.
Right.
And as of now, they're leaving it alone, and it is slowly reducing. But a lot of other countries worldwide have had the same problem with it.
Right.
And I think, from what I read, the reason it was found in Irish waters, this is what my lecturer told me years ago. I don't know now if it's right or not, but she said that it was dumped into the sea because someone had an old aquarium and they thought they were doing the right thing. by dumping it back in. And I can see why they would think that.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you need to do your research as well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like if that is what happened, I mean, it's a very normal thing that someone would do, you know.
Of course, yeah. And you think you were doing a good deed as well. You're like, oh, I'm just going to throw it back in, let it live.
Yeah, like bring it home kind of a situation. Yeah. But you know, it's funny, like those kind of little things can happen. And not just with you know, the sea. You've seen it with plant life and things like that as well, where people just, you know, think, oh, this won't be harmful. I'll plant it here, and certain things happen. And it's just, look, it's completely an innocent thing that people do. But you're right about certainly about things like that, because of the factors that can come down the line, which you're trying to work with, or people trying to fight against and stuff. How big is, when you're besides your project, we'll say, what's the conservation side of things like in Ireland?
So in my industry, we wouldn't really kind of focus on the conservation. You know what? If I'm going to be honest, I don't think Ireland is the best, but like, you know, marine protected areas, that's one thing that we need to really be focusing in on. And I think we've only got a couple of, I'm going to say around 3 or 4 MPAs is what they're called, marine protected areas. And that needs to be changed. I mean, there's so much marine life all around Ireland. Even you go like a couple of 100 kilometers off the coast, we have deep sea corals. I mean, they're being destroyed through to trawling. There's been a lot of issues with those. We have a lot of marine mammals off the coast. There's been blue whales, biggest mammal in the world that's been spotted off the coast of Ireland. I mean, there needs to be a lot more done on the conservation side for sure. There's a couple of, I think, charities. There's Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. They're doing a really good job. And Seal Rescue Ireland, they're great for rescuing seals and stuff that have been, you know, abandoned by their mums and stuff as pups. But as of now, the conservation side, it needs to be, we need to kind of move on. Like, I mean, I'm seeing other countries in Europe and stuff, they have a lot more MPAs compared to Ireland. I feel like Ireland is very slow to react to certain things. Once they see other countries doing successful things, they're getting on well, then they'll go, okay, now we'll take that on board.
Yeah, that is very Irish. I think we had Collianis on, who was talking about insects and arachnids and stuff like that, and he's really big into conservation with regards. Well, obviously he talked about boglands, which is obviously where I am here. There's a lot of boglands around, and trying to protect the boglands. And again, it's suggested that it's not great what we're doing, like you're suggesting with the sea, that it's not great as well. And it's that kind of thing of, for anybody out there who's trying to make something of a difference, you know. And I think it's difficult when it comes to the sea because of the vastness, and we can look at, you know, go around the beaches and clean the beaches, which is a great thing to do, obviously, but people want to do more, but it may be not, the information's not out there, and it's because of the slowness of the government to try and sort things out. It's like it. When you talk about the protected parts, I mean, we're surrounded, like, you know, by the sea, and it's weird. If you talk about different European countries probably doing more, there's probably more landlocked countries doing more than we do.
It's crazy. I've said it for such a long time. We're an island surrounded by seawater. We depend on our ocean so much in Ireland, and like a lot of the time we're doing very little. It's crazy. I mean, you know, we can do as many beach cleans as we want, but I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. Whatever you're seeing that's getting washed up, 90% of it is still under the water, you know, and a lot of it is fishing gear. And I'm hearing mixed reports. Some people say that it's Spanish fishing vessels that are kind of dumping it in, because you can actually tell the difference between Irish fishing gear and Spanish.
Right.
Because we have a lot of other European countries fishing off our coast, which a lot of Irish fishermen are not happy about, and that's fair enough as well. I get that. But I'm seeing mixed reports. Some of the fishing gear being washed up is Irish, and other stuff is kind of other European countries. But there needs to be way more regulations done on the dumping of it. And even, you know, we plan, you know, when people go out fishing and stuff, we're supposed to have like a fisheries observer on board to stop them from, called bycatch. So you might accidentally catch a dolphin or something like that, and then you just throw it overboard, but the dolphin is already dead. You know, there's just so much money involved in fishing at the moment that, I mean, you're not going to, if there's a fisheries observer on board to make sure everything is legal, they're going to be afraid to say anything, because it's just it's a million industry. Do you know? I mean, people are terrified.
I think that's kind of the disappointing side of it, is that there's so many people against those kind of things, but because of the fact, and it's in everything, when money talks, like that's what rules. And it's such a shame, like, that we're not trying to push back on that a little bit. But when we talk about the cold, and because everybody loves the ocean when it's sunny and warm, and everything's going well, this all that stuff, but getting down there when it's cold, and I want to kind of address what you mentioned about the sea swimming. I know you were doing the October thing.
Yeah,
I started doing sea swimming, I think maybe it was back in June, July, and the first time I got it, now I had not, right, trust me, I hadn't been in the sea for years. So I was in Blackrock in Dublin, and I went into the sea there, and it was so cold in June or July. And when you're expecting something like, oh, it's grand, it's sunny, it's warm, it was freezing. But like you said, there was something about it, like something that kind of took away a certain level of anxiety almost, that it, when you step into something that cold, you tend to forget about a lot of your problems. That's the problem right then and there. It's the cold, jumping out and stuff. And I find that like really kind of, I know, reinvigorating kind of a situation. How do you get on with it?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do struggle with the cold. I don't struggle with it as much in the summer. In the summertime, I don't. I mean, my boyfriend now, he will not go into the sea without a wetsuit even in the summertime, whereas I'll go in my togs and stuff. But I do struggle with the cold. And I mean, I think anyone who says they don't would be lying. I think no matter how long you've been sea swimming, there's still that cold water shock. But I mean, as of now, I haven't actually went out swimming now in a few weeks. I think I was down at the beach 2 weeks ago, but I actually had a chest infection, so I wasn't even going to try it. Okay. But if the next time I'm going to be down at the beach, I would definitely do it. I mean, it's just, as much and all as you hate getting in, and oh my God, you're never going to regret it once you're out. And it's so true. I mean, the reason, it helps so many people, cold water therapy, is because you literally cannot focus on anything else aside from the fact of, I'm so cold. Same with, I do a lot of hot yoga, and it's in 40-degree heat. All I focus on, no matter how stressed I am, it's so hot, I need to get out of here, I need to get through this, because you have nothing else to focus on. And it does totally kind of clear your mind. So when you come out, you go, Jesus, like, that wasn't too bad, and I'm feel refreshed, So as much and all as you might hate going in, you'll never regret it once you're out and you've kind of warmed up. You're like, geez, that was amazing,
I agree 100%. And we're still in the togs, and we really have to get into the wetsuit, because it's a bit ridiculous at the moment. Like, but there's one thing I want to actually mention, and maybe yourself and your boyfriend may have had this discussion before, but I go down with my mate Josh. Okay, so we're in the lake at the moment, obviously, because we're in the Midlands and we just have the lakes, and obviously it's very cold. Now, Josh does it as a punishment almost. It's almost like if he's not suffering in the water, it's not worth getting in for. So he'll do 20 minutes, and like, I can see he's really struggling. Like, now I'll do 10 minutes, and that's fine with me, but it's for the reason that you just mentioned, the reason I just mentioned about fulfillment and feeling great afterwards. There's a weird thing of when we both are out, and like, he's really struggling. Like, he's in the car with the seats warming and everything that. You do it for the same reasons as I do it. Have you heard of that silliness of someone doing it to punish themselves?
Oh, I have, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
I see it online the whole time. I see loads of people going in, and I saw one photo. They were a UK swimming group, and one woman literally had a sledgehammer and was smashing her way through the ice at the top. No. She was in her togs. She had a woolly hat on, literally. And I actually believe they do enjoy it. I think some people might just be kind of talking the talk, but I do believe people like that. It's a mental challenge, and I think a part of it is, if you can do this, you can tackle anything when you're, at home and when you're struggling.
Yeah.
I think, the harder the challenge mentally, because it's all mental. At the end of the day, you're feeling cold. It's physically difficult, but it's like anything, it's all in your head, and it's, that's what I think. So I do believe there are people out there that are just doing it for that challenge. Yeah.
And it's so funny, because I'm at him all the time now, because I think 20 minutes is too long, and I think he needs to, especially we're at the end of November, he needs to cut down to 10, just because I can't lift him out if anything happens. He's too big. I'm just not going to be able to lift him out. Yeah. And like I can't make him see it the way I see it, because it's, we're all different, and and
Yeah.
we started in a cryo bath, and he wanted to be in there, and it was killing him, but like he felt that this was like his punishment for whatever it is. It's like when the priests, what's it called, they slap themselves with the oak.
Yeah.
That's his thing, a self-flagellation. Is that what it's called? I think that.
I think it is. Yeah.
So with growing up around the sea and that, did you do anything else in the ocean? Did you try surf and any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do surf badly, but I'm not
Okay.
even going to pretend. I mean, I have a surfboard there. I surf now. I mean, you see me down the beach and I'm crap. I'm not even going to lie. I can get up on the board and stuff. Every now and again, I'll have a good day and a bad day, but I do surf. I do kayak as well.
Right.
We purchased kayaks there. I think it was last year. I think it was the year before, and they were brilliant. So I am, and like I'm, even if I'm not down at the beach to go for a swim or a surf, I'm over at the rock pools. I just
Right.
love it. And that's why I set up the Instagram page, because I was just like, okay, if I love it, maybe some other people might love it. And
Mm.
that's literally just me walking down the beach and just going, oh, what's that? And taking a photo and explaining what it is. That's just literally it. And especially in Ireland, because we are an island surrounded by seawater, a lot of people still don't know what's kind of lurking
Mm.
in the rock pools and along the seashore. And there's so much life. And people think, when you think of snorkeling and scuba diving, you're in like a tropical ocean, you're on the Great Barrier Reef. There's just as much amazing life here off the coast of Ireland. I mean, you just need to find the right locations, and as long as the weather is okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like about your page as well, because we see, it's a great time for nature programs on TV. You can see so many. You can see them on YouTube or wherever you want to watch them, and I do love them. Like, they're great, and I like to see whatever animals we might see, but they're not all as focused on those kind of things. Rock pools, you'll get one or two here and there,
Yeah,
where they talk about it. But those kind of things that I saw on your page, I hadn't seen before or heard of before. And like you say, they're here, like they're right on our
yeah.
doorstep. And I think, I'm sure you bring that to the kids on the bus, where you talk about those things. And it'd be so cool to see kids just down there in the rock pools looking for these kind of little things that they didn't see before. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is, and you're very right. Actually, I mean, a lot of stuff that I might share. Yeah, it's so true. Some of the TV shows, they don't actually show it.
Mm.
I just wanted to get out. A lot of people are kind of afraid of the sea, and I just wanted to encourage people, to get out and explore. And that's one of the main reasons as well. Some of my posts, I kind of focus on jellyfish, and a lot of people would not go into the water if there was jellyfish there. And I mean, most of the species that we have in Ireland are actually okay. We just don't like the feel of them. That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, the Portuguese man of war and the lion's mane, I would be worried about. I wouldn't go in swimming with them. But I mean, they're fascinating creatures. And that's what I wanted to get across. I mean, I think they're 500 million years old.
Mm.
So are some dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're in our waters. People hated them, but I had a load of people come back to me after I did my post on jellyfish, and they're like, thank you so much. Now I'm not afraid to go into the water with them, and now I can identify which ones to stay clear of and which ones to swim with.
Yeah.
And that brings me so much joy. I love that.
And it's like, that's so true about the jellyfish, because I would throw myself in there as well, because I can't remember who I was talking about it, but I was in Dublin in the sea there doing the cold water. But when I went down to Galway in September, I think it was around that time.
Yeah.
And I had heard about all the jellyfish down in Galway, and about that time, someone did tell me then not to be all gone at whatever time it was down there. But I did think twice about it, because they've always they've always been built up as a scary thing.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid. So yeah, they are weird to feel. Like, I get that as well, but it's not that it's the fact that you think, oh, you'll sting and it'll be terrible and it'll ruin your whole day and all that. And we're not educated enough on jellyfish.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of the time with the jellyfish, it's fear of the unknown.
Mm.
I mean, they're not around our waters a lot. They only kind of come in the summer months. And it's the same with even, if a wasp, like, I mean, if you've never been stung by a wasp, you're terrified of them. But once you've actually been stung, it's like, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. It hurts, but it's not that bad. Or, it's just such a negative stigma surrounding them. But once you actually understand them, and they bring a lot of benefits as well. I mean, I think the crystal jellyfish, which is off the coast of Ireland, doesn't sting us, by the way. They extracted, I think it's green fluorescent protein. So they actually use that to make glow in the dark mice. They use it for in medicine now at the moment as well. I mean, it's crazy. I think the scientists won a Nobel Prize for that. You know, so I mean, there is a lot of work being done on jellyfish and their stinging cells and stuff. So there is benefits to them as well.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like, because my dad is hugely into animals and nature shows, and he's always putting that point across that everything's there for a reason, and there's a point to everything, and we just have to kind of get that into our heads. So, kind of following up on what you just said about scary things, I'm going to ask you a question about a scary thing. Have you had any scary ocean moments?
No, and I think it's because as much and all as I love it, I'm very cautious around the sea. I'll never go sea swimming. Like I've went down to beaches before and planned to go swimming, but there's been no one on the beach. I won't go on my own. I just won't. Even I know how rough it can be, and it can, like, I mean, especially like down in Garrettstown in Cork where I'm based. I mean, I've went in surfing there a few times, and you know, I've been in really shallow water, but because the waves are so strong, it can just take the sand from underneath you and you can drop. And a lot of people will panic. You know, I have the surfboard so I can float with that, but I've just seen what the waves and the strength of the sea can do. I haven't had any scary moments. I mean, I'm always very cautious. Even when I go kayaking, I won't go on my own. I'll send a text to people on land saying I'm going. I'll always have my life jacket. I'll have my phone in a protective pocket. I think the people, you know, and I'm not a strong swimmer, by the way. So I can swim, but I wouldn't be a sea swimmer like, you know, the people who go swimming around the buoys and stuff.
Yeah.
I know some people have gotten into trouble, but I have been lucky enough, touch wood, to not have actually ever been in trouble. But I think that's because I'm so cautious. I'll check the weather, I'll check the swell. The sea is unforgiving. And I mean, if something bad happens, a lot of the time you might not get out. It's just, I've seen stories, and it doesn't matter where you are in Ireland or around the world. So I'm just always cautious that. And that's why, as much now as I tell people to get out and explore, I'm just always like, always wear a life jacket if you're anywhere, you know, on a kayak or anything. Even in my Instagram posts, anytime I have photos of me kayaking, I'll always have a life jacket on. You know, I'll always go out with somebody because it's too dangerous to not be cautious of it.
And that's, you know, I guess that helps with you growing up close to the sea and being able to kind of, you know, as young, from when you were young, because for me, obviously growing up in Athlone here, it's, you know, next to the river and the lakes and stuff like that. And we would have heard stories. There was too many stories for you to take any risks, that if you were going on a boat anywhere, you just like, it doesn't matter if you don't look cool with a life jacket. It's just, how often did you hear that?
It doesn't bother me anymore. If someone says that to me, I'm like, you're the one who's uncool, not wearing the life jacket. It is. But like I did grow up in a town, like it wasn't very close to the sea. There was a river running through it. So we did go swimming, and there's one place in Ennis where it's an old abandoned quarry, but it's completely flooded now with water. And I suppose that was one scary moment. We all went down swimming when we were teenagers, and there's a small little island out in the center of it. And I tried to swim across, and I did swim across, but I really struggled. I actually did think for a second there was a time that I was so tired I could have drowned, and then I realized, okay, I'm not as confident or as good of a swimmer as I thought. You just have to be cautious. I mean, because you do hear the horror stories, and as much and all as they might have happened to somebody else, you never know if they'll happen to you. And just always wear a life jacket. I mean, Jesus, people who think they're not cool, I mean, it can literally save your life. I mean, that's it. Who cares? As long as you're alive, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Exactly. People who think they're not cool, grow up, because it's silliness. Sure. What you mentioned at the start of the podcast kind of freaked me out a little. The idea that you were fascinated by the depth of things. Okay, so the depth of the sea, or that's the thing that terrifies me a little bit. I'll be honest, because not that I need to see the seabed or the lake bed or riverbed, whatever it might be. It's not that I need to see that, but I need to be sure that it's not too far away. Yeah. I think you went the other way, which fascinates me. You mentioned scuba diving?
Yeah.
So that how far have you gone down? What way are you doing it? Is it more for research or?
No, it's recreational. I mean, the most I've done is like 15 meters. I've only done a couple of dives.
It's too deep.
But the thing is, right, I actually, before I started scuba diving, I used to be more afraid of snorkeling because I was on the top and I couldn't see what was on the bottom. Okay. Once you go down there, you see and you're like, it's just totally different world. You're just down there and you go, oh, it's really not as scary as you think. Yeah, I swear to God, when I went down there, I was like, this is amazing. Like, and I used to be terrified to snorkel. I had a thing where I was afraid of what was underneath because I couldn't see the bottom. But once you're down there, it's actually fine. And like, there still are times that I would still get a little bit freaked out. You know, when you're in the sea and you're like, oh, something could be under me. I mean, at the end of the day, we're living in Ireland. There's not going to be much there. Like, there's going to be a bit of seaweed, a few fish, maybe a seal. But I mean, what are the chances they're going to come and attack you? You know?
It's weird. And I think it's hard to know what I can put this down to. It could just be Jaws, the film. But I know I'm in Ireland, right? When I'm in, like, just say I'm doing the, sea swimming or whatever, or sea dipping, really. It's not really swimming, it's just getting in. But say I'm just kind of floating around and I know that there's not a great white shark under there. But my imagination will tell me that there might be, because it's like, and that's a brilliant way of looking at it. And I've never thought about it, that when you're scuba diving, you're in the bottom and you can see everything then, and and you're right. Like, once you're on the top, on the surface, you just don't know what's going on underneath you. And I think, like, I mentioned this to someone, could have been on the podcast even, that we were talking about that's what freaks us out.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, I always kind of compare it as well to your imagination just plays tricks on you. You know, for me anyway, if I'm downstairs in the middle of the night and I'm the last one to go to bed, I turn off the lights. I'm imagining someone's running after me as I'm coming upstairs. It's the same thing. Your imagination just plays tricks on you, and for no reason at all. But once you think about it logically, it's like, okay, what is there going to be underneath it? And I guarantee you, if you ever go scuba diving, you're going to go, okay, this is not as bad. It will help you. It will definitely help you. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk, because I didn't mention it when you were talking about it, but that the calmness of the sea, I mean, I don't mean that in the sense, obviously the sea gets very not calm, but when I'd never kind of paid it much attention because I didn't live next to it, and my mom was always big talking about the sea and stuff, and then she eventually got to move next to it, and she's happy out, obviously. But when I go up and visit, I started to realize that the calmness that I can get, even if I'm running by the sea, I go down by Dún Laoghaire there and that, and for my mental health and for my anxiety, it is quite a good thing. And I can't quite, and I think you're kind of helping me with that, trying to figure out what it is that kind of gives me that kind of joy and that anxiety. And someone mentioned to me before about the vastness maybe have been what it's about. Like, and the depth could be another reason, but just the kind of seemingly endless, possibilities of the whole sea out in front of me. It's so big that such minor issues can be kind of put to rest while you're there.
For sure, like 100%. And for me, I think a lot of the time it's actually the smell of the sea. You know, when you're coming close to the beach. I know where you're on about. Actually, I do when I'm up in Dublin for work. I'll go running along the pier in Dún Laoghaire. It's an amazing place. Even the strength of the wind there, and just the smell. And I just like, even when I'm running, as much and all, sometimes I hate it. I'll just watch, people kind of coming in, sailing in and out, by that pier. And it makes your worries kind of seem insignificant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? There's all this beauty out there, and I just look at the beach and the waves and stuff. I just imagine it's washing my worries away. That's what I feel like.
Beautiful way to put it, actually. And there was one day where I was literally feeling like it was washing my worries away when I was out in the West Pier, the longest one, and I turned back into Dún Laoghaire, and the wind was so strong that it was basically like blowing the sea up into my face, But as I was running, I got to the end of the pier, and there was a seal, and I had never seen a seal kind of outside of the zoo, I suppose. And he was she just like chilled there and just bobbing. And I could have stood there for a few minutes just kind of getting my breath. The seal wasn't going anywhere. And again, just something very beautiful about the seal, because they're gorgeous animals in the first place.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're so cool. And just the calmness that was giving off. The seal was just chilling there. Just chilling. And honestly, the water was being whipped up and everything was going on around. And that, it was kind of a metaphor for, anxiety almost. The fact that like when you're there and everything is whipping up around you, and it's, can you be that kind of zen mode that the seal was in?
Yeah, when you're surrounded by chaos, you can always try find the calm within, even.
Be like a seal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's helped me so much. It really has. And I would just encourage anyone to try and get out. And even if you don't like the sea, even try go to like, a wooded area.
Mm.
That's because I'm not close to the sea right now. We have like this wooded area just around the corner. I'll go there and I try not to kind of take my phone out that much unless I'm taking pictures of plants and stuff. And you just like just surround yourself in nature, and if you listen to the birds, and if you just stop and actually pause and look at what's around you, it really calms me down, and I can say it calms a lot of people down as well.
Have you found that, like, since you're doing the Instagram and stuff, that you've have a little community going with the other marine biologists?
Yes, I have. I haven't found that many people in Ireland who
Mm.
are marine biologists. There's one girl, her name is Finn. She's great as well. She's based up kind of Bundoran, but I think like, as much as she's a marine biologist and I'm a marine biologist, our content is totally different.
Right.
She might focus in on, I think, a lot of her sea swimming, and she does a lot of work, with, I think she does marine protected areas as well, or marine mammals. Whereas I focus in on like let's bring the scientific stuff down to basics and talk about
Mm.
what's around our coast. Because actually, I haven't found many people. The bigger community I found has been the sea swimming community.
Right.
It's just exploded in Ireland. It's amazing. And there's I've seen a few kind of nature, kind of conservation, terrestrial stuff.
Mm.
But no, and that was one of the reasons I set up the marine biology page, because I didn't see anything like that. I've seen a few people, in tropical areas in the country, they do their snorkeling, and they have like these professional photographers taking photos of them. But I
Yeah.
don't have that. I literally
No.
just have a photo. That's the best thing I have at the moment.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody really needs especially with the cameras that we have,
Yeah.
in our phones today,
Yeah.
like at our disposal. I think I have somebody followed me recently, and it was just after actually I followed you, so maybe it was just a weird coincidence. But the whale whisperer, she's she's
Right.
obviously big into whales and dolphins and stuff like that. But I love, that was another thing I noticed about the sea swimming thing, because the community, when you're there, when you're by the sea, it's amazing how they all will just say hello to you, and
Oh, they're so nice.
they are
really
really
are.
nice.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that community just kind of started off because of COVID, and people were struggling during COVID, and it's just such an open community. There's one page in particular, Salty Sea Sisters.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's run by two girls kind of based up north. They just started promoting, sea swimming, and they're just posting other people around Ireland, swimming in the sea. And I think they had their first birthday there a few months ago. I unfortunately couldn't go, but just the community that they brought together, there was hundreds of people there.
It's amazing.
It's just, oh, and for people, who might feel lonely at this time and stuff, it's helped hugely. Like, I'm definitely going to follow that whale whisperer, though. I don't think I follow her.
Yeah, Whale Whisper. Have a look. Very good content as well. And I will say one thing about the sea swimmers. They can. What's the diplomatic way of putting this? They've told me some untruths, right? Because when you walk, you've your little bag of whatever, your towel and all that, and you say, "What's the water like?" And they're like, "Oh, it's lovely. It's grand. It's never grand."
I say it too, though. And as much I am that person. As much and all as it's freezing, it's so grand once you're in.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
It is.
I'm that person as well.
But if you put like at the end of it, it's grand once you're in, then it becomes more of a truth. But I remember the first person to tell me it was grand. I think it might have been the first one, because it was June or July. And when someone says it's grand, then you're like, of course it's grand at the time of the year.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll never trust them again.
Yeah.
I just can't trust them. But outside of that, then, Anya, what outside of the ocean, we'll say, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Oh, I love walking my dog. I just love being outdoors anyway, in general, to be honest. I'm just a social person, but I do like kind of spending time by myself too.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert, but I'm also kind of introverted, and it took me a long time to be okay with being by myself.
Yeah.
So now I absolutely love it. So honestly, if I'm not posting content and stuff, I'm probably just with my dog walking around, or going into town getting a coffee and stuff. I just love being outdoors, outside, people watching.
Yeah, it's a great pastime. I think it's nice to hear somebody say that they like to be by themselves, because I think it's still seen as kind of strange enough that people would want to be on their own. Like I talk about, like, I like my own company. You can't read in company, so I like reading, and then I I like going to the cinema on my own.
Yeah,
It's just one of those things where I can sit at the back and, you know, go in the afternoon when there's nobody there. And it's quite, I don't know, it's enjoyable. But if you say that to someone and they're find it's very weird that you're on your own in cinema, you know?
I think they're a lot of the time they're probably just struggling with dealing with themselves as well.
Mm,
Because if you're secure in yourself, you don't really need to put another person down for what they're doing as well. That's the way I see it, you know.
yeah.
And if you can't, like, you need to love to be by yourself because at the end of the day, it's you have to depend on, no matter how many friends you have or you know if you're married, because it's just yourself you have to deal with and live with at the end of the day. So I love it now, and it did take me a long time. It was only in the last 2 years when I really just enjoyed being by myself, and it's great. It's just you do your own thing. Nobody's there to tell you what to do.
It's very true. And do you think that that kind of self-awareness can be put down to, like you mentioned, you spent a number of years in counseling. Do you think that helped with that?
Yeah, I did. It did, I think. And I think a lot of it as well was just kind of gaining self-confidence because I
Mm,
had that imposter syndrome. And then I realized, okay, I didn't get where I was today because of I was an imposter. It was because I was a hard worker. You know, I mightn't have been academically extremely smart, but you know, I started to become proud of myself. I always gave off this persona that, you know, kind of full of crap, really. You know, like it was really loud, bubbly, but you know, deep down you would be insecure, and that was who I was. I was insecure, and I didn't, you know, like some of the stuff I did, and I just kind of you need to have a long think with yourself, and the counselling definitely helped it for me, and just being okay with myself, and kind of graduating and getting a job that I was good at. It
mm.
really helped as well. But even now, tomorrow, let's just say if I got touch wood, if I got fired, I mean, I know I'm good at this job. I'll find something else, you know. You just have to be okay with being you as well at the end of the day.
Here, here. I think a lot of people, and definitely helped me. You know, therapy helped me with that. You know, being comfortable in my own skin, like, and it sounds, you know, it's kind of cheesy or whatever it is, but I think a lot of people, you know, going back to the life jacket, really, people will think that you look like a nerd or whatever. Like, but again, it's that comfortable. Like, we're all should have a bit of cop on in the first place, but it's also the idea of, yeah, it's all right to be nice and relaxed with who you are. I mean, I have anxieties every day, but I'm
Yeah.
still quite happy to spend time on my own and not to not to worry too much what people are thinking about me. Really.
Yeah, and I think no matter if you have issues or you don't have issues, I think everyone should try therapy at least once in their life
Mm.
because it's nice to talk to someone that's it's non-biased and it's just I think everyone should try it once. I think it's amazing. It
It's.
really is.
I agree. The episode coming up after this one, actually, the week after this one, is with a psychologist, and again, it's like I've had a few different types of therapists on CBT. I've had someone on for that. I've had a couple of psychotherapists, had a psychologist now. And, you know, every time they've come on, there's, you know, I've experienced it because I've been there, done the therapy, but every time they come on, there's this like just a reassuring quality about them and
Yeah.
everything about them to me. I've always have great admiration for people giving up their time to listening to other people's, you know, problems, difficulties, whatever way you want to say it. There's something quite, you know, heroic in that for me, I think.
Yeah, it is because I mean taking on someone else's burden, that can have an effect on them as well. I couldn't
Mm,
do it.
no.
It would take too much out of me. So you need to be a special kind of person to do it. And I have huge respect for those people. You know,
Yeah.
they're brilliant.
100%. Anya, where can people find you? I know we mentioned it already, but go for it.
Just my Instagram handle, oceangirl_Anya. That's where you can find me.
There we go. Anya, it's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you for your honesty and thanks for telling me about how all of the things work in the sea, basically.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek. It was great.
You're welcome. Listen, if you don't mind sticking around for a minute, I'll close it out. Just take a quick photo and we'll go.
Yeah,
It's all right.
brilliant.
Thank you
Sounds
very
good.
much. John, thank you very much to John for his work on all the technical stuff on the podcast, as ever. To the people who make it happen, my mom, my dad, my granddad, Jaron Calvin for the logo, music, subscribe to YouTube. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and all the podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening, whatever you decided to do. And once again, Anya, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And everybody, we'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye.